Hello, Reading Room. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. How are you? We are here on day 17 of our book, Black Looks, but on day 300 of the classroom. Woo, woo! I probably would have brought my party things if I had them. I know where they are, downstairs, top shelf of my little cabinet. It's a big cabinet that I had my whole life. Our first piece of furniture. Mine and my husband's first piece of furniture, real furniture, gold and white, gaudy as hell. Art van, 1980s. Let's read from our book. January 20th, day 300 in the classroom. Is Paris Burning? Chapter 9. There was a time in my life when I liked to dress up as a male and go out into the world. It was a form of ritual, of play. It was also about power. To cross-dress as a woman in patriarchy, then, more so than now, was also to symbolically cross from the world of powerlessness into a world of privilege. It was the ultimate intimate voyeuristic gesture. Searching old journals for passages documenting that time, I found this paragraph. She pleaded with him just once, well, every now and then. I just want us to be boys together. I want to dress like you and go out and make the world look at us differently. Make them wonder about us. Make them stare and ask those silly questions like, is he a woman dressed up like a man? Is he an older black gay man with his effeminate boy-girl lover flaunting same-sex love out in the open? Don't worry, I'll take it all very seriously. I want to let them laugh at you. I'll make it real, keep them guessing, do it in such a way that they will never know for sure. Don't worry, when we come home, I will be a girl for you again. But for now, I want us to be boys together. Cross-dressing, appearing in drag, transvestism, and transsexualism emerge in a context where the notion of subjectivity is challenged, where identity is always perceived as capable of construction, invention, change. Long before there was ever a contemporary feminist movement, the sites of these experiences were subversive places where gender norms were questioned and challenged. And that really is the norm that was questioned and challenged right there, which was the notion of subjectivity is challenged, where identity is always perceived as capable of construction, invention, and change. So the notion of subjectivity is challenged. But here they are subjectively placing, and who's they? Drag, transvestism, transsexualism, placing a subjective picture right on it. I mean, by the very quotes that this person is saying, let's dress up together and make it subjective. I don't know, because I don't know what that brain is looking for, but I do know that brain is looking for something, and it's likely finding it in all the wrong places. You know what I mean? And so, what do I mean by that brain? That brain is a victim mentality is what it ends up being, right? I don't know. And the voyeuristic, as they said, and see, I have to highlight. Can you believe that? That's what I'm struggling with. Look at this. Who can can't believe it even. It startles the mind. It's staggering. So, I don't know. Where identity is perceived as capable of construction, invention, change, it's not the notion of subjectivity that's being challenged. It's the notion of objectivity that's being challenged. If you really want to get at it. But you know what? I think my husband and I had that argument. And he said it should be objectivity is being challenged. I don't know why I wanted it to be subjectivity. But I do know. Who are you challenging? You're challenging not yourself, you're challenging them, right? And what are you challenging them with? The notion that whatever you're assuming is subjective. That's how it should be taken. Long before there was ever a contemporary feminist movement, the sites of these experiences were subversive places where gender norms were questioned and challenged. Already read. Within white supremacist capitalist patriarchy, the experience of men dressing as women, appearing in drag, has always been regarded by the dominant heterosexual culture gaze as a sign that one is symbolically crossing over from a realm of power into a realm of powerlessness. Just to look at the many negative ways the word drag is defined reconnects this label to an experience that is seen as burdensome, as retrograde and retrogressive. To choose to appear as female when one is male is always constructed in the patriarchal mindset as a loss, as a choice worthy only of ridicule. Given the cultural backdrop, it is not surprising that many black comedians appearing on television screens for the first time included as part of their acts impersonations of black women. The black woman depicted was usually held up as an object of ridicule, scorn, hatred, representing the female image everyone was allowed to laugh at and show contempt for. So you would see them on like the Red Fox show or what was that? Sanford and Son. You would see that with that aunt played that part. And also Flip Wilson did it as well. And did anyone else do it? That I can remember almost right off the tip of my head. Almost. Those two came right away though. So yeah, definitely a thing. Definitely. Often the moment when a black male comedian appeared in drag was the most successful segment of a given comedian's act. For example, Flip Wilson, Red Fox, or Eddie Murphy. And also then Tyler Perry in that group as well. I used to wonder if the sexual stereotype of black men as overly sexual, manly as rapists allowed black males to cross this gendered boundary more easily than white men without having to fear that they would be seen as possibly gay or transvestites. As a young black female, I found these images to be disempowering. They seem to both allow black males to give public expression to a general misogyny as well as to a more specific hatred and contempt toward black women, growing up in a world where black women were and still are the objects of extreme abuse, scorn, and ridicule. Now, that is true. What they're saying right here is so interesting. And that is, for example, the Flip Wilson character, whatever her name was. That I said as a kid, I saw that as a kid. I was like, why would he do that? It's just ridiculous. He looks ridiculous. He sounds ridiculous. And he's giving black people a bad name, basically, is what the feeling was, right? Ugh. And yet, that was the highest, those were the highest ratings, was when he did that character And he wanted to drop it and he couldn't. And from personal experience, I don't know about Red Fox or the Sanford and Son, because he really liked Red Fox a lot, but my dad. But definitely in the, what the heck? Flip Wilson, he would laugh. He laughed at that. I don't know. Maybe, you know what? That memory was so long ago. And I did like demonstrate my displeasure. Just weird stuff. Weird. I used to wonder if the sexual stereotype of black men as overly sexual. In retrospect, I can see that the black male in drag was also a disempowering image of black masculinity. Appearing as a woman within a sexist, racist media was a way to become in play that castrated, silly, childlike black male that racist white patriarchy was comfortable having as an image in their homes. That's what I'm saying. Not quite, but yeah. These televised images of black men in drag were never subversive. They helped sustain sexism and racism. It came as no surprise to me that Catherine Clement, in her book Opera, or The Undoing of Women, would include a section about black men and the way their representation in opera did not allow her to neatly separate the world into gendered polarities where men and women occupied distinctly different social spaces and were two antagonistic halves, one persecuting the other since before the dawn of time. Looking critically at images of black men in operas, she found that they were most often portrayed as victims. And here's the quote. Eve is undone as a woman, endlessly bruised, endlessly dying, and coming back to life to die even better. But now I begin so remembering hearing figures of betrayed, wounded men who have women's troubles happen to them, men who have the status of Eve, as if they had lost their innate Adam. These men die like heroines. Down on the ground, they cry and moan, they lament. And like heroines, they are surrounded by real men, veritable Adams who have cast them down. They partake of the femininity excluded, marked by some initial strangeness. They are doomed to their undoing. That is really heavy duty stuff right there. I mean, you are not only weaving in black masculinity with a portrayal of an undesirable female, but you're doing it, you're also weaving in Eve into the whole thing. And I would say in a further unfolding would be images of Michael Jackson, Prince, and Tom Petty even, where you've got these images of I don't want to say Tom Petty, but I do want to say Tom Petty. You have images of heroines. And that just, does generalize to other mental images, if you know what I mean. Many heterosexual black men in white supremacist patriarchal culture have acted as though the primary evil of racism has been the refusal of the dominant culture to allow them full access to patriarchal power, so that in sexist terms they are compelled to inhabit a sphere of powerlessness deemed feminine. Hence they have perceived themselves as emasculated to the extent. Now, this is also interesting too if you take a look at it from The reverse perspective, from white supremacist perspective or white perspective, that I don't have to be a supremacist, that if I am accepting you into this, or, you know, trying to work with you a little bit on this, it almost appears to be a what we would call in psychology as self-handicapping. And, you know, there's some smarts in that. You made this mess and now you're going to put it on my back? I'm sorry. I'm just a woman. You know what I mean? Many heterosexual black men in white supremacist patriarchal culture have acted as, I already said that. To the extent that black men accept a white supremacist sexist representation of themselves as castrated without phallic power and therefore pseudo-females, they will need to overly assert a phallic misogynist masculinity, one rooted in contempt for the female. Much black male homophobia is rooted in the desire to eschew connection with all things deemed feminine, and that would, of course, include black gay men. A contemporary black comedian like Eddie Murphy proves his phallic power by daring to publicly ridicule women and gays. His days of appearing in drag are over. Indeed, it is the drag queen of his misogynist imagination that is most often the image of black gay culture he evokes and subjects to comedic homophobic assault when the audiences collude in perpetuating. Now, I don't think there's any collusion here either. To quote a phrase. And what I'm saying is, I don't ever remember Eddie Murphy doing drag. He was on Saturday Night Live, and he did, you know, lots of characters. I don't remember any of them being women. Number one, he did the drag after he became famous, and that was to play all the parts in his movie. How about that? I mean, what's up with that, right? Like Tyler Perry. So I don't know if the read is right on this, is what I'm saying. I don't think there was collusion here. For black males to take appearing in drag seriously, be they gay or straight, is to oppose a heterosexist representation of black manhood. Gender bending and blending on the part of black males has always been a critique of phallocentric masculinity in traditional black experience. Yet the subversive power of those images is radically altered when informed by the racialized fictional conjunction of the feminine that suddenly makes the representation of whiteness as crucial to the experience of female impersonation as gender. That is to say, when the idealized notion of the female feminine is really a sexist idealization of white womanhood. This is brutally evident in Jenny Livingston's new film, Paris is Burning. Within the world of the black gay drag ball culture, she depicts the idea of womanness and femininity is totally personified by whiteness. What viewers witness is not black men longing to impersonate or even become the real black woman, but their obsession with the idealized, fetishized vision of femininity that is white. Called out in the film by Dorian Carey, who names it by saying no black drag queen in his day wanted to be Lena Horne. I just read it wrong. I was like, Lena Horne? Is that her drag queen name? What? And then that no black drag queen of his day wanted to be Lena Horne? Why not? He makes it clear that the femininity most sought after, most adored, was that perceived to be the exclusive property of white womanhood. When we see visual representations of womanhood in the film, images torn from magazines and posted on walls in living space, they are, with rare exception of white women, significantly the fixation on becoming as much like a white female as possible implicitly evokes a connection to a figure never visible in this film, that the white male that of the white male patriarch. And yet, if the class, race, and gender aspirations expressed by the drag queens who share their deepest dreams is always the longing to be in the position of the ruling class woman, then that means there is also the desire to act in partnership with the ruling class white male. The combination of class and race, longing that privileges the femininity of the ruling class white woman, adored and kept shrouded in luxury, does not imply a critique of patriarchy. Often it is assumed that the gay male, and most specifically the queen, is both anti-phallocentric and anti-patriarchal. Marilyn Frye's essay, Lesbian Feminism and Gay Rights, remains one of the most powerful critical debunkings of this myth. Writing in The Politics of Reality, Frye comments, and here's the quote: "One of things which persuades the straight would that gay men are not really men in the effeminacy. That's the word. This is like what? Not old English. I'm not going to say it. One of the things which persuades the straight world that gay men are not really men is the effeminacy of style of some gay men and the gay institution of the impersonation of women, both of which are associated in the popular mind with male homosexuality. But as I read it, gay men's effeminacy and donning of feminine apparel displays no love of or identification with women or the womanly. For the most part, this femininity is affected and characterized by theatrical exaggeration. It is a casual and cynical mockery of women, for whom femininity is the trapping of oppression, but it is also a kind of play, a toying with that which is taboo. What gay male affectation of femininity seems to be is a serious sport in which men may exercise their power and control over the feminine, much as in other sports. But the mastery of feminine is not feminine. It is masculine. Really, do you think you've mastered it? Is that what you think? Is that what you were led to believe? Do you think you've mastered it? And then this brings up a time, my time, of images of why gay men liked Madonna or Pink or Barbara Streisand, right? They didn't want to screw them. They wanted to be them. Or Marilyn Monroe. Or Jackie Onassis. Right? Any viewer of Paris is Burning can neither deny the way in which its contemporary drag balls have the aura of sports events, aggressive competitions, one team, in this case, House, competing against another, etc., nor ignore the way in which the male gaze in the audience is directed at participants in a manner akin to the objectifying phallic stare straight men direct at feminine women daily in public spaces. And again, sorry about that, don't miss, and in that Apprentice, I saw a film of myself as well, and not attractive film either. Me film after I was drinking that vodka in that vehicle with Monica, and that's not Monica Lewinsky. As far as I know. All right, where was I on this? Sport. The sport of this. And it's not just the sport of it, but the money-making aspect of it, which is gambling. That's what's going on here at the root of this depravity that I see. It is a sport, but not if there aren't winners and losers. And not even if the winners and losers are simply philosophical, ephemeral, right? No, it's a real sport where there's real betting going on and real wins and real losses with the people who are the owners of the marionettes. Any viewer of Paris is Burning can neither deny the way in which its contemporary drag ball, or there. Paris is Burning is a film that many audiences assume is inherently oppositional because of its subject matter and the identity of the filmmaker. Yet the film's politics of race, gender, and class are played out in ways that are both progressive and reactionary. When I first heard that there was this new documentary film about black gay men, drag queens, and drag balls, I was fascinated by the title. It evoked images of the real Paris on fire, of the death and destruction of the dominating white Western civilization and culture, an end to oppressive Eurocentrism and white supremacy. This fantasy not only gave me a sustained sense of pleasure, it stood between me and the unlikely reality that a young white filmmaker offering a progressive vision of blackness from the standpoint of whiteness would receive the positive press, according to Livingston and her film. Watching Paris is Burning, I began to think that the many yuppie-looking, straight-acting, pushy, predominantly white folk in the audience were there because the film in no way interrogates whiteness. These folks left the film saying it was amazing, marvelous, incredible, funny, worthy of statements like, "Didn't you just love it?" And no, I didn't just love it. For in many ways, the film was a graphic documentary portrait of the way in which colonized black people, in this case black gay brothers, some of whom were drag queens, worship at the throne of whiteness, even when such worship demands that we live a perpetual self-hate, steal, lie, go hungry, and even die in its pursuit. That's amazingly insightful. That's like amazingly insightful. And calling this the sport of all this, I have to highlight that. Yeah, again, it's more than just an aura of a sports event. It is aggressive competition. That's exactly what it is. All right, but this other statement right here. Yeah, so it did nothing, this film. And here's the thing about that. Portrait in which the colonized black people, in this case gay brothers, worship at the throne of whiteness. I mean, and here's the thing about that. You know, today's question in Early Birds was miracles, what are they good for? You know, and that's this theme right here, right? Of black gay men, right there. Miracles, what are they good for? It's like solidarity, brother. Yeah, bullshit. Solidarity, right? Because what has it gotten us? And this is how I feel, and this is how I think, which is for people who are extremely outside the norm. That kind of thinking is insightful. You know, I wouldn't worry about losing your black men to white women, because that you can combat. I would worry about losing my black men to homosexuality, to worshiping at the feet of white men. And, you know, I mean, take your hits. And then, you know, a lot of black men took their stand. I mean, Eddie Murphy did not worship. He would not be in that class. And neither would, I don't think, Huxtable, whatever his name is, right? Neither would he be worshiping at black men's, the altar of white supremacists. But he did like white women, I would say. I mean, and I don't even know, right? I'm just saying, you know, to give you characters. I'm not saying that all, you know, whatever, black performers or even ones that they've mentioned, I'm giving you some kind of contrast here with, you know, where you could see people might be accused of making that work or doing that, adorning at the altar of white supremacists, where black men would say, I mean, just, you know, you could take famous black men. What would Denzel Washington say? No, I'm making a buck and I'm doing it my way. That's what he would probably say. And he's likely right, right? But he's got some advantages. But then you take Flip Wilson, and he was really at the mercy of the networks at the time. And that was getting hits. And so that's why Flip Wilson did it. And he actually was not going to do it again. And he wasn't going to get a contract. Gertrude, or whatever her name was. Geraldine. That's who it was. Geraldine. That he did. Do I think that he worshipped at the altar of white supremacy? No, I do not. No, I do not. But he was forced to begin a mental representation of what we see as outcomes of that, of what that author is talking about. Really heavy duty shit, I think, right here. Again, it's a sporting event. And don't think that drag queens and who else did they say in here? Black gay brothers and white supremacists are not experiencing Numbnuts November and Dick Off December and, you know, Jack Off My Bro January, and they're not part of some kind of gambling thing. I bet you can't do it. I bet you can't do it. I bet you can't do it. And now we've got January Jack Off or whatever the hell it is. And, oh, you're out, arms up, you're out. That sure sounds to me like what was going on over there at what the hell's that TV show over there? Seinfeld. Same thing. Going on Smartless. Arms up. You're out. Sounds like just like a lot of white supremacist bullshit going that no matter what you think you have for power, bitch, you do not. So you go back to miracles. What are they good for? Babies. This is Dr. Annette Feravich. Thanks so much for joining me here in the classroom. We're cutting it a little bit short compared to what we usually did. I thought that my son started up my car, but I don't know. There was no evidence that he actually did. So I got to get started in my car and doing a few things to run around and stock up. I'm out and it's freezing. It got down to, I don't know for sure, but it was said -4 last night. -4. January 20th, it is day 300. We are out, but we are rolling. 1 day behind us, 2 more to go for our 3 days on, and our 4 days off. We'll talk tomorrow a little bit more. I'll dig up some things that I did on my 4 days off, but most of it really was working on this. Spent a lot of hours working on Early Bird. You'll see more of that tomorrow. Not hear so much of the Thanks so much for joining me. That's how we activists act. Using our words, assholes. I'm talking to the judicial system right there. That's what I was calling asshole. Judicial system. Judge Mack in particular. And that Joan creation too. Anywho, thanks so much for joining me here in the classroom where we are digging deep to really get some roots on a healthier mind, a healthier body, and a healthier spirit. Really, roots. Watch the movie, but I was more particular about the Bible quotes there on getting deep roots. I was. Thanks.